This plot could be potentially disturbing. Viewer discretion advised.
Hey everyone! I am super excited to announce that I'm going to start making these Unsolved Mysteries episodes. But before we get started, I know I already put a warning, but I'm going to warn you again. This topic is super creepy and could be very disturbing to some individuals. So proceed with caution. Okay, with that out of the way, let's hop right into it. Today, I'm going to be talking about the crazy unsolved murder of Dorothy Jane Scott. On May 28, 1980, Dorothy Jane Scott disappeared from Anaheim, California from a hospital. She was a 32-year-old single mother to her 4-year-old son, Shawn. She worked at a place called Swingers Psych Shop. She was described as quiet, deeply religious, didn't take drugs, and she rarely dated. Most of her free time was spent with her 4-year-old son and her parents who looked after Shawn when Dorothy was at work. In the year 1980, which was also the year Dorothy disappeared, Dorothy began receiving extremely creepy phone calls from an anonymous person. These anonymous calls started weeks before her disappearance. Dorothy could never pinpoint whose voice was on the other side of the phone, but it was believed Dorothy found the voice familiar in some way. The caller knew descriptive information about Dorothy that they wouldn't know unless they were watching her. For example, what she was doing, what she was wearing, where she was, and she would receive these calls from both her home and work phones. Dorothy began taking self-defense classes, and she wanted to buy a gun, but decided not to because she didn't want her 4-year-old getting his hands on it. It is unclear if she had informed the police about these calls. But on May 28, 1980, Dorothy was at a meeting where she noticed that one of her co-workers, Conrad Bustrom, started to look really ill. Throughout the meeting, he would start looking more and more uneasy, and you could tell something was not right. It became clear to everyone that there was a large red streak on his arm, which resembled a rash, that was getting worse and worse. Dorothy was super worried about Conrad, and so she convinced him to let her drive him to the hospital, alongside another one of her co-workers, Pam. The doctors at the hospital were able to find out that a black widow spider had bitten Conrad, and after treating the bite, they discharged him around 11 o'clock that night. Dorothy told Conrad and Pam that she would get her car from the parking lot and would meet her at the hospital's entrance. Conrad and Pam waited there for a long time and were starting to get anxious, but were relieved when they saw her car heading towards where they were. But then once again worried when they saw the car speed past them. Dorothy Jane Scott would never be seen alive again. Yet surprisingly, the menacing calls continued. But instead of with Dorothy, the calls were to her mother. The caller would taunt her with details about Dorothy's kidnapping and murder, and they would often call her when she was home alone. He claimed to be a lover who caught Dorothy cheating and which this was her punishment. The police had the calls traced but never were able to find the identity of the caller or his whereabouts. The calls continued on for 4 years and then stopped when the police found Dorothy's skeletal remains in August of 1984. The caller finally finished these calls by asking her parents, "Is Dorothy home?" Yeah, so I've got goosebumps now. But I hope you guys didn't get too creeped out. Tell me what you thought of this video in the comments. I plan to make more plots like this, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.